Choosing Death has been helpful in introducing underground metal to newcomers. It also reminded the bands involved and their fan bases how fun and important the death and grind scenes were. Now there's an updated edition for 2015. It has over 150 new pages, some new interviews, some more pictures, and a new artwork. This alone would make anybody want to pick this version over the much shorter original. But for those who already own the original, is it worth it to buy this new one? Hell yeah! For one thing, if you've already read the book, revisiting the events and the interviews is a real treat. Plus, it's easier to read if you already have a blueprint of what happened and who did what. For anyone trying to get into metal, it might take a while to remember the names and when things took place. Trust me, it's much easier the second time reading. Meanwhile, a couple of factual inaccuracies have either been corrected or eliminated. For instance, the cause of death of atheist bass player. Plus, a couple of sections seem to have been trimmed down to make room for some new information. In the original version, there are a couple of more sentences on Slipknot's part, but in the new version, they seem to have been cut out. Just in case you were wondering if anything is missing, but nothing important is gone. Not only are there 2 new chapters at the end of the book, but after the chapter Across the Open Sea is a chapter on death metal in Finland and Holland. Bands like Convulse, Pestilence, and Amorphous are now featured in Choosing Death, and it corrects a minor flaw in the original. It covered Norwegian, Swedish, Canadian, and European bands, but either glossed or skipped over the Finnish scene. The 2 new chapters at the end of the book discuss metal from the 2000s, but it also talks about bands that want to further evolve the genre and experiment with different sounds, keeping metal strong. Other bands want to look into the past and play things in the old school style. Then it gets into the broken up bands that reunited and their reasons for doing so, and why they choose to record new albums or not. It's as if the bands are self-aware as to what the fans want, but also wish to play what's in their hearts instead of staying formulaic. Also updated is the Life After Death section about the band members, as well as the Essential Discography. In the original book, a lot of great albums were left off. I couldn't even believe that they left off the layered Death albums. But now Possessed 7 Churches is in the book. For years after the first version of the book was released, the website for it kept updating the Essential Discography by the year. And the reason I bring this up is because when I first read Choosing Death, I had only known 3 or 4 death metal albums. So this Essential Discography was my go-to place for how to find death metal. And every time I made money for Christmas or by mowing the grass, I would look in the back of this book and see the list of albums, and I would go to the store or iTunes and I would buy these albums. The most notable difference is in the mood of the book. Because of the additional 3 chapters, it no longer leaves you with the impression that death metal is this dark, obscure, mysterious thing. In the original, the presence of the internet is very minimal, and there's a lot of discussion of the tape trading scene, fanzines, people actually writing letters to each other. So the original book always made me feel lucky that I have the internet to discover my music. It was written in 2004, so this was just before the thrash metal revival, and just as the MySpace metalcore scene was beginning. But after the book came out, the internet definitely made it easier for metal fans to find their music. In fact, this is how I got into black metal. I saw a sale for black metal on iTunes, and I bought a Darkthrone album. However, this new version of Choosing Death modernizes the story. It details the importance of metal fans' use of the internet, as well as how times have changed for the scene. Many of the bands that broke up during the 1990s and reformed now felt like they had a reason to be playing. Hell, some of these bands reformed because the original Choosing Death reminded them how fun it was to be part of the death metal scene. And that's just the best part about Choosing Death. No matter how many times you read it, you're always going to be put in the mood for some sick, brutal, heavy, death fucking metal.